Venezuela in transition, Rand Paul's annual Festivus report, the exploding international scene. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America with my own take on key stories in business and politics. Lots of stories around the world, and I'll do my best to cover as many as possible. Venezuela in transition. Venezuela is in transition. That's what we've been hearing on the news for about 24/7 for a couple of weeks now. I think we all hope that Trump's plan will work. How about moving faster? The VP of the fake government is now the president of the fake government. How is that going to be resolved? I heard the people have been blocked from celebrating the removal of Maduro. That does not sound good. Look, I know the lefties in our government, like the clown mayor of New York City, are heartbroken that one of their heroes has been arrested. I want to underscore that speaking as an attorney, I consider this an arrest of an international criminal who has done great damage to the citizens of the U.S. and his own country. No civilized nation believed that Maduro won the 2024 election in his country. Therefore, he simply was not a legitimate head of a country. The U.S. for 2 centuries has had the Monroe Doctrine that, due to the proximity of Central and South America, we will protect those countries. In the past, the concern were territorial attacks. More recently, it's been stopping drug trafficking, guerrilla wars, and the growing influence of communism. We need to look no further than during the day of the night Maduro was arrested, representatives of the CCP, which I regard as the greatest threat to world civilization, had a full delegation meeting with him. It is crucial that we prevent a CCP takeover of any country in our hemisphere. Trump is honoring America's not only long-term commitment to protect our hemisphere, but to block having the CCP on America's doorstep. Venezuelan expats and refugees around the world have been celebrating the removal of Maduro. All the celebration is paired with caution, as there's a long road to successful and safe country. It was just 30 years ago. Trump-class battleships. Well, one thing you depend on is that Trump has an ego. He has recently announced creating a new class of more powerful battleships, which he, of course, is naming after himself. He proposes to make as many as 25 of them, with 2 to get started. Here is my take. First, I want no bill passed or something like this done that is named for anyone in government for at least the last 25 years. Second, the days of the battleships and even aircraft carriers are numbered. The world has too many missiles and drones for them to be practical for the wars of the future. As my article on Cold War II states, the good guys need to control under the seas, outer space, along with a Golden Dome system covering not just major cities in the U.S., but major cities of our key allies. So I'd rather have our limited resources dedicated to these goals like space attack systems and nuclear submarines. Third, a parallel need is a restoration of U.S. shipbuilding capacity to build more of its own container ships and tankers. Rand Paul's annual Festivus report. Republican Kentucky Senator Rand Paul released the latest edition of his annual Festivus report. For 2025, Rand's report detailed well over $1 trillion in wasteful spending by our bloated government. Like Trump, I don't always agree with Rand, but we are on the same page that our government is a toilet into which hard-earned tax dollars are flushed. Not only tax dollars, but borrowing now pegged at $38 trillion, which will burden generations to come. His details included $1.5 million using influencers to reduce drug use in Hispanic communities, $1.9 million on a wacky program to reduce childhood obesity among Hispanic families living in LA. Good idea, pathetic program. $40 million spent on influencers to promote getting vaccinated against COVID-19 for minorities. $1.5 million to promote American films, television shows, and video games abroad. Almost $1 million spent, I can't make this up, folks, teaching ferrets to drink alcohol. Almost $15 million to train monkeys to play a Price is Right video game. American families are struggling, and your feds are tossing money in the toilet like toilet paper. Credit Trump with the lowest level of Fed employment in a decade, but that barely scratches the surface. I call for a target of reducing our bloated federal employment to pre-1932 levels, right about a century ago, before the ruinous New Deal under FDR. Time to end these failed programs now. Send most wasteful programs into the states. They can spend their money if they want to, and for the programs they continue, they will probably spend it a lot more carefully. The exploding international scene. Trump should mind his store, not mess with our allies. Trump has spoken against Colombia's president. That is not playing well with this ally. Since I was in Colombia recently and spoke to many Colombians, I have learned that he cannot run again, and the election is only 6 months away. The people do not want narco terrorists or guerrillas attacking their communities. I think a conservative candidate can replace this lefty. America can help by supporting candidates who want security for Colombia. So maybe Trump can learn from Canada. He came out hard against the Canadian leadership, and despite that failed leftist government, the Canadians elected another lefty to replace the current one, even though the conservative candidate was ahead before Trump shot his mouth off. Trump recently commented that Cuba looks like it's ready to fail. In my research, this failed communist operation is indeed on the ropes. What is happening that turned the key? We have cut off their oil supply. We can finally bring the commie fools to the ground. Note that the 32 Cuban bodyguards were killed when Maduro was arrested. This is a bad operation that needs to end. Do we have the local resources in place to run the joint and make it the Caribbean playground it was before communism? Let's focus on regime change the right way. Speaking of regime change, Iran's terrorist leaders are on the ropes. I believe the reported number of 16 killed in protests is likely very low. Iran's currency has now lost half its value, for instance. In any event, time to support the opposition. I know certain U.S. allies have spies all over. What does the Trump administration need to do to support internal regime change there? For sure, keep enforcing sanctions and prevent them from selling their oil. Cut off the Venezuela to Iran mutual support situation. That will help, just like cutting off Cuba from Venezuela. Last but not least on this topic is the mess Trump created with Denmark and Greenland. First, we don't need more dependence. Second, we already have a U.S. military base there. Third, why not have a heavy-duty cooperation agreement? We simply do not need to take over Greenland to have a strong position there. Hilton Hotels bounces a Minneapolis hotel. A big shout out to the Hilton Hotel system for bouncing a Minneapolis area Hampton Inn for canceling reservations for ICE agents to stay at their hotel. Some of my audience may not realize that most hotels run under a big franchising company banner. They are not a chain with one ownership. The name identification, especially their major reservation system, adds a lot of value to these hotels. That would not have the same impact without the chain affiliation. When some foolish companies have taken the wrong side, great that Hilton took the right side. And federal giveaways. Minnesota and Minneapolis in particular are the poster children for everything that is wrong with the federal government. Seems like every day more comes out about the fraud there. I hear numbers approaching $8 billion. Well, let's think about it. The Fed soak us for taxes and then populate the government systems with overpaid and underworked bureaucrats who have no incentive whatsoever to mind the store. The more money flushed through their sewer system, the more security for those losers. Think about it. The scumballs in Minnesota saw the federal government as a big, stupid piggy bank. Why not take all they could get their hands on? Why not take care of their political allies? The outcome is predictable. Not sure why any rational person is shocked that the criminals saw this as a golden opportunity to grab all they could. The Biden-Harris administration's 4 years of slop and chaos made it all the more inviting. While there can be poor neighborhoods, there are no poor states. The concept that the feds need to be involved in daycare, medical care for the poor, school lunches, and 1,000 other giveaways is pure bunk. Send it all back to the states. Time to cut the federal bureaucracy, and I promise you that we will all do better in this country. Death at the hands of an ICE agent. There's no way to spin this headline. It is bad for America. I am reminded of the old saying, it's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. As I've said on prior Saving America episodes, we need to respect law enforcement, and that includes ICE agents. Why was this woman even operating her car near these agents? Unfortunately, media coverage and the slopstream media made messing with ICE operations sound like the thing to do. It never makes any sense to mess with a law enforcement officer of any kind. Regarding the legality of the shooting, as an attorney for over 4 decades, I am reserving judgment. Let the legal system play out. I am sure that will go on for years. There are no winners in this scenario. The reports that scientists have reversed Alzheimer's symptoms in mice is exciting news. Some existing meds can delay the symptoms, but nothing so far has been able to repair the damage. The results were announced by researchers at University Hospitals Cleveland Medical Center. The key is a cellular energy molecule called NAD+. If the brain fails NAD+ at healthy levels, Alzheimer's develops. This research team treated the diseased mice with a drug called P7C3A20. Incredibly, the mice regained their normal brain functions. If this can be reproduced in humans, it could be one of the most important advancements in medicine of this entire century. Let's hope for the best here, folks.
This is Dr. David D. Schein. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Remember, a new Saving America show is aired on the Brushwood Media Network every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Listen on any of the 16 network stations, Apple or Google mobile app, Apple CarPlay, TuneIn, Smart Speaker, and all smart TVs. Find more information at the brushwoodmedianetwork.com. Please be sure to join us each week. We welcome and love your feedback from our growing audience.